I want to bring up Andrew Buckman. Andrew is the managing director for EMEA at OpenX, and he's going to talk about raising the bar in quality. And he's going to be joined by Paul Borselli, our chief client officer, a little bit later. But first, Andrew.
Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout.
Good morning. Day 3. More people than I thought there would be. So I took this picture last night in the bar when I said I'm going to talk about quality tomorrow morning. Who wants to come? And it was a very enthusiastic reaction. A little bit less enthusiasm this morning. So what I want to assure you, this is not a sales pitch. I will not tell you about how our features on quality are better than everybody else's. So I'm going to ask Tim. I didn't prep you about this, I'm sorry. You'll keep me true. This Tim Faircliff. Everyone knows Tim Faircliff, yes. If I start sounding like a sales pitch, I want you to call bullshit. Yeah, so it's too late, I didn't do that. So we're going to talk about quality. What is quality for us? Quality is traffic quality and ad quality. I'm going to split those into those two buckets. And why this is important is that for programmatic advertising to actually work, marketers need to be confident they are spending money in a brand-safe and fraud-free environment. And there is a lot of media coverage about quality, about fraud, about how much it costs. And because it's the advertisers who are actually spending this money, they're the ones who tell the journalists of how much money they think they're wasting. And the A&A this year think that advertisers will be spending $6.3 billion on traffic that is caused or generated by bots. So that is a massive newsworthy problem that really sort of gets everyone's attention. And we look at bots generally across the whole spectrum. We try and figure out where are they more important, where are they less prevalent, and you get a lot of press coverage for them. You get 11% bot penetration across traditional media, up to 23% across video, 17% across programmatic advertising. And these are the kind of numbers that keep me awake at night because it gives a bad image to everything about programmatic and everything about advertising online in general. So we struggle hard. We put a lot of processes in places within OpenX, but also within the sector in general to actually keep this quality up. So what we try and do is define what are the different factors about quality that we really need to think important. So we put them into 3 buckets. First off, brand safety. I mean, is this an environment that the advertiser actually wants to put their ad? 12 or 13 years ago, I was selling contextual advertising products. Really simple stuff where it would scan the content of a page, it was usually just the words in the URL, and decide what ads to put on that page. So if airline or flight to Barbados was in the text, then you'd get an ad there. And then pretty soon we discovered that airline advertisers don't like having their ads next to airline crash reports. So we started putting in filters. And that was 12 or 13 years ago. So you'd think this would be sussed by now. But still this year, there was a big furore over P&G brands and Anheuser-Busch brands showing up in pre-roll ads for ISIS recruitment videos. So it's still not there. There's still issues. And it still needs working on, still needs to be solved. The second area is viewability. Are the marketers confident that the ads that they are paying for appear on a part of the content that the user is actually going to spend enough time on to see, or even better, engage with the ad that they're paying to place there. And this is not a reality everywhere. They want to be sure that the ad that's at the top of the page is not going to get scrolled past too quickly, and the ad at the bottom of the page is going to get seen. So we need to work with them to help them understand the value of those different positions. And third is, and because there's not enough acronyms in this business, is NHT, non-human traffic. Is the computer, that is viewing this content and is downloading the page or the content of this publisher being governed or being run by a human being rather than by a bot? And now, if this was a sales pitch, I would be telling you about how OpenX's new generation quality platform actually takes us down to the browser level, but it's not, so I won't say that. But there are many different human and technology solutions in place, and we need to sort of really drum on this to make sure that this gets prevalent, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. So that's the traffic quality side. The ad quality issues I also put into two general areas. One area which has no immediate impact on the consumer, and that is malware. So what happens is that they have an ad that downloads a virus onto their computer that then enslaves that computer and puts it into a bot network, and that causes most of the traffic quality issues that we saw before. So I'd say it doesn't affect the user immediately is because they don't actually notice that happening. They'll notice over the course of a period of weeks that their computer's slowing down. They probably think that it's because it's getting old, or they don't realize they've got a virus in there. But this is causing most of that $6 billion number that we spoke about earlier on. The second bucket of ad quality issues is the stuff that really piss users off. It's autoplay audio and video ads. I mean, how many of you have frantically looked for that tab in your browser which is screaming out either music or commentary from a car ad or something which you didn't request, but is just coming up there? Pop-ups. Now, pop-ups are getting better because most browsers have got efficient pop-up blockers, but still an issue. And my pet hate at the moment is mobile redirects. It's a tough problem to solve, but it's when you're browsing your content on your mobile or on your tablet, and then suddenly the App Store pops up or Google Play pops up because you're getting a redirect from one of these. And all of these things put together is what drives consumers to put ad blockers in place. So we reduce these ad quality issues, we'll reduce the need for ad blockers, and we'll increase the ability to actually make money off of inventory. So we commissioned ExchangeWire to actually talk to the marketers and get a little bit more idea of what they really think about this so that we make sure that we're barking up the right tree. And pretty much all of them think that marketplace quality is a serious issue. Not necessarily that it's a problem which can't be dealt with, but it is something to take seriously and that they treat very seriously. 2/3 of them don't think that programmatic is more risky than any other channel, which kind of means that they think all channels are risky, and it also means that 1/3 of them do think that it's more risky than other channels. So it is something we need to work on in terms of perception and in terms of protection. And 84% of them think that if we did resolve all of these quality issues, then they would spend more money. I'm only assuming that the 16% that are left are actually spending all of their money because they think it's such good value for money, but that's my hope. So, as I said at the beginning, this is not just a solution that one company can solve, not a feature that I can sell you, which is why this is not a sales pitch. Because it's something that the whole sector needs to get involved with and actually needs to contribute to make this better. And I would encourage you all in this room to understand the traffic that is flowing on your sites and then also to work with different groups to understand what to do about it. The IAB, for example, are involved in two groups. One is the anti-fraud working group, and the other one is the DTSG brand safety group with JICWebs. And what these do and what you can do with them is they share best practices, they share data, they share use cases, they help you understand how you can modify your processes so that you can combat fraud, so that you can increase quality. And the thing with fraud and the thing with criminals is that they go to where the money is. This is why credit card fraud is such a big thing, is because there's just so much money that's going through credit cards. There is a huge amount of money that is going through your websites to pay from paid advertising. So of course that attracts criminals, that attracts people who want to actually get that money illicitly. So if you can get the best practices in place that the rest of the market is using, then it shuts down the opportunities for those criminals to do. And then there's other companies also that, that can help you do this. So you see, I'm doing a pitch, but for other companies. Integral Ad Science we work with, Double Verify, Forensic, These are all high-quality quality companies that can actually help you with these different processes. So just in terms of takeaways from this, what I'd like you to understand is that raising the bar on quality is not just a one-sided part. When we spoke to the marketers via ExchangeWire, they said that they want us to see the solution to come more from the supplier side, maybe some from the DSPs, but mostly from the SSPs and the publishers themselves. So we all need to be involved in this. It's not cheap. It requires investment. We found this out the hard way. 3 years ago, we cut out 30% of our inventory, which is a tough conversation to have with the board when you tell them that you're going to cut out 30% of the revenue. But it's also a tough conversation with the publishers, the ones that don't make the cut at all, that you don't want on there, and the premium publishers that you deal with when you actually tell them that some of their inventory is not of the right level of quality. That is not an easy conversation to have, and it took us 3 years to recover from that. We think we're in a good place now. You need to have an independent team within the company whose pure focus is quality and who have no revenue pressure. They don't report into the sales director or the chief revenue officer. They are there to assure that, like Tim is doing with me, that you remain true to the mission of quality. And that they have the backing from the full organization to be able to do that. So on that, I was going to bring Paul on so that we can actually start to talk through a few questions.
So I was watching the slides backstage. How do you stay ahead of the fraudsters? Is it publishers, ad tech, and these associations like IAB working together and kind of creating a consortium to fight this issue?
Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, as I was saying earlier on, it's criminals will go where the money is. So the more money there is flowing through this, the more attractive it is. And if anybody is out there acting on their own or not putting in place the proper processes to actually defend against this, then they're going to attract more fraudsters and more criminals that are going to them. So the best route around this is to cooperate as a sector and as an industry to do this.
Okay. And where do you see some of the biggest areas of risk in the future or in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, sort of, in the future is kind of today already, because it's a lot of the risk is in the newer environments that we don't necessarily all understand well as publishers or as marketers. Sort of new channels in mobile, new ways of interfacing with content that a fraudster who is 110% dedicated to just trying to focus on one particular channel is going to get before anybody else can. So staying ahead of them is sharing best practices, is understanding what we've done to be able to overcome a particular situation, if it's not patent pending, but also mostly to understand where the problems are. Right? Mobile redirects, they kind of popped out of nowhere, but they were focused on a couple of independent sites initially before they got momentum. And if those sites or the suppliers to those sites had actually shared their findings around the sector, then we could have been able to find a solution a lot more quickly.
Great. Are there any questions? Yes, right back here. Wow, that was quick. Wow.
Thanks a lot for your presentation, extremely insightful. I think the problem is when you bring in obviously new publishers on board is especially aggregators, right? Because you can't control the inventory as much as you can do when you work directly with a publisher. And now allow you to do an OpenX pitch as well. What do you do as OpenX in order to protect yourself against, let's say, bringing fraud traffic on the platform? Do you do a whitelisting process, or what are the specific steps to ensure you have, let's say, quality traffic on your platform?
Yeah, so Tim, he doesn't work for me. Can I answer this? Yeah, explicitly. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. So we find the solution OpenX is a mixture of human and technology. So every site, so we've dedicated, I think it's 5% of our staff to doing just this. So there is human review of absolutely every site that comes onto the exchange before they go live. And then there is a technological and algorithmic scrub once they're on the exchange in real time. And that happens by putting code on the browser of the user, so that we can interpret how that user isn't, or how that computer is interacting with the site, so that we can decide if it's a human being that's doing that or if it's a bot. And you look at that by looking at the way that the mouse scrolls, or the time that's in between sort of different page load times and different ad loads and content load times. You kind of decide whether or not that's a real human being or not. And then in a third phase, at the end of every week, we'll then go back over all of our records to understand what's going on, a kind of big data approach to try and see trends that are going on in there. And we'll cancel transactions based on if we think they're fraud or not fraud.
Great. Thank you. And Andrew's here this afternoon.
Hi.
Moshe
from GeoEdge. I wanted to ask you, what kind of quality issues do you encounter in video?
So in video, is the example I had earlier on of contextual advertising just appearing in the wrong place. That the P&G brands appearing before the ISIS recruitment video. That's still the kind of most common one that we see, because it's difficult to actually put those processes in place in terms of scrubbing content, because just the sheer volume of video on some of these sites is there. But I think that's the main issue.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Andrew's here. He'll see you at break. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.